Hi everyone and welcome back to a new video. Once again, HiFiMan updated the most beloved headphones that people can afford without eating less pudding, and that is the Arya headphones, which were updated to Arya Stealth and then to Arya Organic, which I'll be reviewing today. Although performance-wise everything went up, their price point went down from $15.99 to $12.99, and that's what I'm calling a successful product launch that does everything right from the get-go. So let's check them out. I have a pair of Arya Stealth near me, and as you can see they look pretty much the same, but still there is a difference. Their ear caps are now wrapped in this red wooden veneer, very similar to that of HiFiMan Susvara, which I believe makes them look slightly sexier. And also their headphone jacks are now mounted on these small elevation pads, also found on HE1000SE and Susvara, which should save those ear caps from scratches when attaching and detaching that cable, so that is a very good difference. These are slightly heavier by 10 grams compared to the Arya Stealth, but please don't worry, at 440 grams, these are still among the most comfortable and lightweight planar headphones that I have used. They are very comfortable to use long term. I can use them for 3 hours straight and that wouldn't be the problem. As you can see, their ear caps are taking the shape of the human ears, so I do believe they are staying very comfortable on my head. All in all, we are getting a sexier looking headphone that is comfortable to use long term, as it was before, that should resist plenty of use and abuse at any one listening station. If you are wondering what's the difference between Arya Stealth and Arya Organic, well, first of all, their nominal impedance went from 32 ohms to 16 ohms, and that makes quite a change in terms of sensitivity. Actually, I measured the sensitivity and I sent an SPL of 85 dB on the Arya Stealth, and that translated to an SPL of 88 dB on Arya Organic, making this pretty much the most sensitive version of the Arya, which should have a beneficial effect on people which are not using desktop components. And I'm pretty sure that you can drive these even with some hi-fi dongles, with portable digital audio players, DAC combos and so on, which is a very good change of pace. There is another change that HiFiMan is not mentioning anywhere in marketing materials, and that is the thickness of their magnets that are facing your ears, which are slightly thicker compared to the Arya Stealth and to the original Arya, and I'm pretty sure that will have an effect, especially on the transit response, on the control of the diaphragm, because clearly those magnets are more powerful and they should sound different, hence having a different name, Organic. Thicker magnets typically correlate with better transients, and I'm very excited for this change. Beyond that, these are pretty much the same Arya, fully open back planar headphones. They have the same window shade system, they have stealth magnets and nanometer thickness diaphragm. I'm excited to hear all the improvements, and I'm curious how these will perform with both desktop and portable equipment, so let's hit some eardrums and uncover the truth. Sound-wise, I anticipated a higher mid-range presence, I anticipated a lower treble presence that would resonate with the Organic moniker. However, my expectancy was met with a surprise, because there was a higher treble presence and there was a dip in the upper treble. However, there is a much bigger difference between these, and it's not happening in the frequency response. I'll be showing you some measurements of the Arya Organic compared to original Arya and Arya Stealth, and there would be some differences, but you should understand that there are several things that you cannot measure by the world's best measurement rigs, and that is the soundstage capabilities, that is the depth of the sound, that is the volume of the sound, how punchy, how visceral, how physical is the sound. Those things, sadly, you cannot measure. After spending more than a week with the Arya Organic, I slowly started understanding why HiFiMan used this Organic moniker, and it's not about the frequency response. The magnet structure of the Arya Organic differs to that of the Arya Stealth and the original Arya, and that had quite a beneficial effect on the sound of the Arya Organic. You can feel that the sound is more visceral, it's more physical. You can feel those eardrums pretty much vibrating, something that is not happening with the Arya Stealth. Those were quite lightweight, quite ethereal sounding. You needed a beefier amplifier to make them jumpy and alive, but luckily you no longer need those amplifiers with Arya Organic, although you can use, of course, those to make them even meaner and punchier sounding. I believe that the dynamics have improved significantly and you no longer need the biggest amplifier to make them jumpy and alive. The primary complaint of the original Arya and Arya Stealth has been addressed, and finally I can have a nicer impact not only in the lowest octaves but throughout their frequency response. The original Arya wasn't an easy to drive headphone, and if you add that lightweight and that ethereal sound that lacked cojones and that wasn't that impressive on the horizontal plane in terms of soundstage, then you slowly start realizing that you need some dedicated electronics, some powerful headphone amplifiers to make them sing, to make them nicer sounding. When HiFiMan released that HiFiMan Arya Stealth, things improved quite a lot, and finally I could drive these even with a few portable devices, although they needed to be slightly bigger, so slightly beefier, like portable digital audio players, portable DAC amp combos. A few of them sounded really fantastic with the Arya Stealth. So finally I could see the light at the end of the tunnel, that these are becoming even more sensitive to small devices. However, with Arya Organic, that sensitivity again went up. So what was an SPL of 85 dB was an SPL of 88 dB on these units. So finally I could drive these even with some small USB dongles. That was actually is quite a big deal, because you no longer need some dedicated electronics. I know that lots of you don't want to have multiple headphone amplifiers like I do. Some of you don't have maybe an office, and some of you maybe are using only some portable devices, you know, a portable digital audio player, a portable dongle. And luckily you can drive these with most of those dongles, and that is actually a very big deal. And I really hope the same thing will happen with the HiFiMan Susvara. Father Odin, please hear my prayers. My second gripe with the original Arya and Arya Stealth is that the sound was quite deep, it was very tall, but I had very little information to my sides, so my lateral hearing was not so impressive. And that was a slight problem, especially with very old recordings that have that very strong stereo effect. In time where headphones didn't exist, people were mixing music very differently, of course. So you had a lot of sounds to the left and right, but nothing in the middle. And since Arya Stealth had that oval shape soundstage, very tall in a way, that was a problem. With Arya Organic, I'm getting a more rounded shaped soundstage, so I have more information to my sides and slightly more in the middle with those super old recordings, and that isn't stressing my mind so much. So I do believe that stronger magnets of the Arya Organic somehow added more weight, is controlling better those drivers, and that somehow improved the lateral soundstage a little bit. So the fading effect on live records is also improved. There is now a slightly longer trail of the music, especially when listening to acoustic music. There is a slightly longer vibration of a few microseconds, and that again improves the perception of more sounds all around you, sounds bouncing off the walls of recording studios, so on and so forth. Something that sounds better on the Organic compared to Stealth or the original Arya. One of the main reasons why I was not using the original Arya and Arya Stealth so often is their tendency towards thinness, especially with acoustic music, and also their slightly lightweight sound with modern tunes. Obviously, you could counterbalance those issues if you had an R2R DAC on your table and transformer coupled tube amplifier or Class A transistor-based amplifier, but obviously you needed to invest in those. So Arya and Arya Stealth demanded some world-class DACs and amplifiers to make them jumpy and alive. Arya and Arya Stealth, however, were very fast sounding by default, so always snapping into action like that, very nimble, stopping on a dime when needed. Something that their close competitors couldn't do. So all those headphones from Odyssey, from Sennheiser and Beyerdynamic at the same price point couldn't provide you the same super fast sound. However, they often fell short when calling down the thunder on rock, electronic, metal tunes, and that's why I was reaching for upper class HiFiMan creations like HE1000SE, like Susvara. However, that is no longer the case with the Arya Organic. So can the Arya Organic rock really hard? Absolutely, yes, they are rocking. They are pounding much harder in the bass. Not only the bass, the wall frequency response feels more powerful, revitalized. There is simply more energy all around you, regardless of the frequency. So in the bass, mid-range and treble, these are stronger. So I do believe the transient response is better on the Arya Organic compared to the older Arya and Arya Stealth. When it comes to resolving abilities, let's say that their close competitors are in real trouble after checking out how clear and how resolving Arya Organic really is. And you are considering getting a pair of HiFiMan headphones mostly for this reason alone. Honestly, anything from their entry-level HE400SE up to their god-tier headphones like HE1000SE and Susvara are very impressive in this regard and how much information they can bring forward. When I got the original Arya somewhere back in 2019, I was shocked by them because they sounded clearer, more detailed compared to my own a pair of flagship headphones, which were by about 3 times more expensive. So I wasn't happy about that, and it was clear to me that Arya were very special in that regard. With the Arya Organic, HiFiMan bumped that resolution even a little bit more, especially in the top octave in the brilliance region. Past 14 kHz, there is considerably more things happening, more information can be heard in that region. And these are definitely more impressive in this regard. In my original HE1000SE review, I mentioned that there's a massive gap in terms of resolution between Arya Stealth and HE1000SE, but that is no longer the case with these ones. And I fear these will cannibalize the sales of HE1000SE because these are incredibly resolving sounding. The resolution gain is substantial, to say the least. The wall frequency response is revitalized and bumped up to 11. And clearly you can compare these with any other flagship headphones in terms of resolution and transparency. Moving on to frequency response, when checking out the measurements of the original Arya, you could spot a straight line in between 20 and 400 Hz, something like that. But when you put them on your head, you'll observe that those wouldn't have the same viscerality, kick, impact, like some other competitor headphones that also had a straight line in between 20 and 400 Hz. So clearly the measurements and the frequency response isn't always telling you the full story, how fun and engaging those are sounding. However, I'm glad to report while these are also measuring pretty flat in that region, these are pounding harder in the bass, these are more visceral sounding, these have a better transient response, and finally I could enjoy those modern tunes without engaging my beefy, big, scary looking amplifiers. That is no longer needed with the Arya Organic, which is a very good thing. HiFiMan Susvara does an outstanding mid-range performance, pretty much the best mid-range of any HiFiMan headphones. Sadly, all those lower tier HiFiMan creations are not so silky smooth and warm sounding like Susvara are, and the original Arya was part of that group, so not as impressive in the mid-range. In terms of measurements, going from a V1 on the Arya up to Arya Organic, again, their mid-range is looking pretty much the same. Actually, these are not looking so great in the upper mid-range. There is a small dip, but when listening to music, I'm getting the same feeling that I've got in terms of bass performance. There is slightly more color, there is slightly more saturation, these are slightly fuller bodied, so I can say that these are sounding more organic compared to Arya Stealth and original Arya. So these are not exactly silky smooth or warm sounding like the Susvara, but these are trying to go into that direction without being so. The most controversial upgrade is definitely the treble. Two things need to be mentioned. First of all, the most sensitive part of our hearing, in between 6 and 8 kHz, went up by around 5 dB, so these are slightly brighter sounding compared to Arya and Arya Stealth. But mind you, 5 dB, not 15 dB, so the brightness is not really that bad. Secondly, there is considerably more information past 14 kHz, something that Arya and Arya Stealth were rolling off massively. So finally you can hear louder and clearer things like macaras, like tambourines, which felt a little muted on the Arya and Arya Stealth. So there is more information not only on the micro scale, but on the macro scale as well. So I do believe their treble is better, there is more information in the top octave, there is simply more extension in the treble, and more information is coming from that region at the cost of a slight bump in the most sensitive area of human hearing. I also measured them, and this is their raw frequency response, and as you can see, their drivers weren't matched that well, especially in the treble. Here's an important graph that compares the frequency response of the original Arya with Arya Stealth and Arya Organic. Their spectrogram is incredibly clean, a rare sight on open back planars. Distortion is also pretty outstanding, sitting around 0.2% at 85 dB SPL most of the time. And this is the spectral decay, which proves that we are dealing with a fast sounding headphone. If you want to learn more about them, then may I suggest checking out my written review, which I left below, my measurement analysis, and also my subjective comparison in between Arya Organic and Arya Stealth. It's all there, so please check that out. Wrapping things up, Arya Organic is pretty much the same Arya that we fell in love a few years ago. These are just easier to drive, these are slightly livelier, thumpier sounding, clearer sounding, more spacious sounding as well. The frequency response extended its reach, and that can be a bad thing or a good thing depending on who you ask. In my opinion, it's a good thing. You have more information up top. These could finally be compared with some flagship headphones which provide that kind of information. So I can go on and on about how many advancements HiFiMan did with their creations. So far, for me, these are the headphones of the year, and I do believe that its close competitors have some catching game to do, because these are ahead by at least one lap. Gold Award was fully justified. These have an amazing value, and these can be compared with flagship level headphones. This is pretty much it. Thank you guys for watching. Please consider subscribing if you'd like to see more videos like this one. My name is Sando. I'll see you soon. Until then, please keep rocking.